You just need to go through your phone and select the people that you already know. Because actually, those are the people who have the most humane, have had made contact with you, the most humane connections, rather than seeking an alien on the app that you've never made contact with. I don't think that you can act out your life. That's one, because life is unpredictable. It's kind of like theater, where it's live, it's direct, it's moving, and it's in action. There's no some when you do something right now. Um, my dad would have a saying that you should try not to always correct your mistakes. So, meaning that you should try to do the thing the first time so that you don't end up correcting it. And in theater, it's live. There's no such thing as doing a retake.
What if you turn hardship into greatness, anger into serenity? Everything changes. Make your life a masterpiece. Welcome, I'm Yannick, your host, and now joining me, Abena Mansa. Abena Mansa is an actress and joins me now to really discuss acting. Have you ever wondered what acting is, what it entails, why it matters, and what are some typical features that a future actress or actor ought to have? And how do you act yourself into success in life? This and so much more now. Join us now. Welcome, Abena Mansa, to the show. It's such a pleasure to finally have you.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform, Yannick. It's amazing. I see that you have amazing guests. It's amazing to be a part of that lineup.
We met at Houston's party. I don't know, what it was like. It was a beautiful, summer. I think it was an afternoon, beautiful sunshine and everything. And so we had really a blast. And so we kept in touch. And I'm so excited actually to have you and to really talk about acting. But before we start, let's introduce yourself in simply one powerful sentence.
Oh, that's challenging. Well, first, I'll start by, like, as customary as an actress, you have to start by introducing yourself. So, my name is Abena Mansa, and I'm an actress and host here, based in Ottawa. And how would I describe myself? I'm ever evolving, I'm ever growing, and I'm ever learning. I'm in a stage where I believe I'm still like a student. um, I have a little bit of life lessons that I can teach, but definitely still a student to this industry.
So, what was the reason that made you interested in acting in the first place?
Oh, I think it was something that chose me. If I can remember clearly, ever since I was 8 years old, I was involved in folk media in my country. I was originally born in St. Lucia. And so being involved in the arts at such an early age, 8 years old, I think that it's something that uh, is a part of me. And it has seemed to be making its way back to me in a way that has been like so rapid. And I hope for us to be able to get into that, so you can learn about, all the things that I've been doing ever since that day that we met up until today.
Yeah, let's dig just a little bit deeper, really, into your childhood and how you actually grew up. And you were always part, obviously, of a community. So just give us a little bit of taste how it was like.
Yes. So in St. Lucia, we observe a lot of the cultural festivals. We also observe and honor our independence from a post colonial society. And those festivals that we celebrate are La Rose avec la Marguerite Festival. Those are flower festivals. We also celebrate our Creole heritage, which means that Creole means to be a mix, a mixture of different races, a mixture of different indigenous groups from that country as well. And so my first play that I was presented with to put on for my school, I participated in competitions that was called Des Belles Tiflets. So Des Belles Tiflets, it means two beautiful little flowers. That is the translation, and you see that there's some French to it. We are our language, it's French Creole, and so we mix the two with our own, essence, and then also the French language as well. But that was my first ever production that I was a part of, as it's a teeny tiny one, 8 years old, and I would further develop that into singing. I have a passion for singing, and so I would do school competitions with other schools at the National Cultural Arts Center, and then with that, I would then immigrate to New York City. So at, let's say, 10, 11 years old, I immigrated to New York City. And at first, my first thought was, oh my God, the skyscrapers. I'm sitting like on the ground floor looking up at those skyscrapers, hundreds of floors. That was surreal for me, my first ever experience. And then, getting on the subway, so rapid, thousands of people just colliding, and everybody seems to have like the perfect coordination uh, to cross section each other and go to their destinations. And so I was in Brooklyn, and I continued to further the arts at one of the performing arts high schools there, Edward Murrow High School. I would also be part of their uh, theater productions. Not to brag or anything, but my school, it is known for having, Oscar-winning and Grammy Award-winning artists. It is one of the most renowned world performing arts high schools in Brooklyn. And so I was happy to be a part of the choir there, and also musical theater classes and such. Yeah. Um, so I'm now like, 14, 15 years old. I would graduate from school. And my idea when I graduated from school was actually to be an event planner.
Great. I
Yeah,
love that.
I wanted to be an event planner. Totally different from, being involved in the arts. There's still a certain aspect to it that it has to do with sales and marketing, which I'm learning now. I'll touch on that. But yeah, that was my passion. I wanted to put on events. I wanted to be involved in entertainment. I wanted to be involved, um, not as a performer, but as like a host, like a yes, like coordinator. Um, and so some time would pass me by, like I would say 5 to 7 years, and I would move then now to different cities. My life had changed, so drastically. I moved from the States, and then I located to Canada to reunify with my family here. And I just found myself in a space where, I moved originally to Toronto. Although it's a big city, but where I was geographically, it wasn't really an environment I felt like really would push me to excel, or that made me shine. Um, I love the community, but I would then try to start exploring myself, and I ended up here in Ottawa at the height of the pandemic. At the height of the pandemic, I moved to Ottawa, and the first one of the first things that I did, I joined a arts program. I was part of the theatrical production for the musical Rent, and um, I still to this day, have connections with the production company that I worked for there, and from there, I started uh, being regularly casted for background work with one of the agencies here based in Ottawa. That is still a regular thing for me. Luckily, I am grateful to say that they seem to always have me on their schedule. I'm very much grateful for that. Um, I'd also do films here, independent films with some local producers here as well, notably Captain Ali Masana and Team B Studios. And I would be part of their production and their film to help, build my resume in terms of acting. Um, I don't know. Should I tell you more?
Yeah, yeah, please. I mean, it's so fascinating because, that's what we are basically telling me now. I wasn't completely unaware because we couldn't really cover, your life.
Mhm.
Well, once we met. So, frankly, I had no clue that you actually were first in New York, then Toronto, then Ottawa. So it's fascinating. I love it. So, what was the difference between New York and Toronto? And when you said like it was very different from where you came from, uh, do you talk about the the change, the transition from New York City to Toronto, or just to clarify this specifically?
Yeah, so New York City, where I was living, culturally, it was a very um, Caribbean, predominantly Caribbean and New Yorker, Black American environment. And I had just become really accustomed to, you know, the lifestyle, just living there. I know how fast paced it was, but I learned the system. I learned how to do everything, and then now to be faced with the decision to relocate, I relocated for family reunification with my dad, and so I'm now in Canada. I've never been to Canada before. Although, like I said, I have lots of relatives here. It's still, I'm still like having a hard time adjusting in my mind. And I was in Toronto and everything, the city, although I wasn't living downtown or central downtown, so I was more in Etobicoke. And I found that everything was quite far. I felt like oftentimes I would commute and I'd be like, oh wow, I feel like this took the whole entire day. uh, I felt like also too, there were new demographics of people. So um, although I am African, I did not I mostly I am more I'm West African. I'm more connected to West African people. Um, and then I ended up meeting, different demographics of people. So I'm now learning about different cultures, different nuances. Even my job, what was, I guess, more readily available for me to do was different. I was working at a warehouse. So it was a more physical labor intensive jobs. And I was still going through kind of like a transition phase. So I just felt like, oh, I had a hard time adjusting. And so I started looking for different places and, within the pandemic and seeing the world just change so drastically, I said, I'm gonna take the chance too. And I moved.
That's
Yes, I'm gonna
amazing.
take the chance too, and I'm gonna relocate. I'm gonna move. I'm going to build a network of friends. I'm going to explore a community that I chose, that I would like to live, that I love, that a place where I can flourish. Because although Toronto is smaller than New York City, New York City did have its advantages in the sense that it's the capital of acting. It's the capital for careers. It's the capital for film. When you think about the industry, it's a bigger city. It's a bigger network. They have bigger budgets. Um, but ultimately, right now that I'm in Ottawa, I feel that um, Ottawa allows me the opportunity to shut out the noise. It's still a big city, but it there's less noise. And because I'm also too not I don't have the immediate access to my family in the sense that I'd like just run over to their house on a weekend. I am more focused on developing myself. I felt like a lot of the things that it's more also like something that is magnetically gravitating towards me because I actually now I'm in a space where or in an environment where I enjoy. The city of Ottawa, it's amazing.
You know what? I really love your energy, and you have so much things on your plate, and I really love that. Where does your drive come from? On one hand, you could attribute this to your cultural background, the fact that you lived in New York, that you always had ultimately the dream to become an actress. But what really drives us? What drives you? What do you think is that you constantly look for improving yourself and really take the chances? And also, how did you overcome the fear to really start acting? Because it takes a lot of courage. And, just kind of a little bit sharing is that when I look back, there is always that really the worst thing, right? It really kind of helps you to lose the fear because you are already basically naked, right? As Steve Jobs said it, right? We all are going to die. And therefore, you ultimately see it somehow as freeing. So, how did you go about it? How did you go and get your first acting job, let's say in the high school or wherever it was? And how did you ultimately overcome the fear?
Yeah, I would say for sure there are a lot of things I would say apart from let's say maybe I would start actually to say maybe from the pandemic. I think that the pandemic I would say was a catalyst in the sense that within my generation it's nothing that I have ever seen before. And um the fear that the pandemic had incited in a lot of us, it had us really thinking this might be the end. You sometimes you see the numbers, the death toll, you're wondering, are you you are at risk. It could be you. Unfortunately. Um then I would say also to um the passing of my mom in 2021. She died such an untimely death, and she died a really horrific death. And that really shook me in the sense where it really rattled me. It really got me to learn a lot about life, the relation between men and women, and about focusing on the things that add value to you, that you find intrinsic that make you happy. And I would say also to also just building my confidence. Um, Although I have a knack for public speaking and I've always been told that I have great communication skills, I wasn't always very confident. And um, I really just started listening to what people around me were saying. I was in a new city. None of these people, they know me. So I don't have to pay them to tell me good compliments. But I always found that they would compliment me, and they really looked they're looking intrinsically into me in a way that was so illuminating that I had to continue to listen to what they're saying. And in building my confidence, I'm able to attract some of the opportunities that I'm afforded because people have confidence in me that I'm going to be able to excel if they give me a task for me to perform that task. They have confidence in me that if they put me to speak on behalf of their business, to represent them at a function, that I can be able to deliver to their audience. It can help them to, it can help give them a sort of value that money couldn't necessarily buy for them, or any sort of connection with somebody that they knew prior. So I'm always also too. I'm someone naturally. I am very friendly. I'm very bubbly. I love to laugh. I love to learn about new things. As you realize, I've stated like three places that I've moved already. So I'm always open to meeting new people, making friends. So those are the things that I've. These are things that people have been telling me that I haven't been noticing about myself, that has helped me to uh, book acting, how I present myself. For background work, it is all about aesthetics. You know, you present yourself in a manner that is professional, that is clean, that is, um, put together. And also too, definitely of being a good team player, and knowing what studying studying for the job, knowing what the job requires, knowing what it entails you. um I feel like that is what those skills are transferring to the results I'm seeing now.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and I like what you're saying about confidence and really that people somehow also help to instill the belief in yourself, right? You can actually do it, and there is actually a thing that you can literally instill a belief in other people's minds by really be very intentional. And actually neuroscientifically we also know that the mirror neural system and really the brain value system, they are connected. So whatever you do and someone really pays attention what you are doing, ultimately it mirrors in his brain and it sends really the signal, even if you don't say it out loud or explicitly, but just implicitly other people can actually feel it. And therefore some scientists call it the field. The moth had the the Heart Moth Institute, for example, California, they did some cutting edge studies that they could actually demonstrate that the signal that goes from the heart to the brain precedes actually actual perception. So it's amazing. In other words, there's something beyond time and space that really makes us up. In other words, in this study, they showed pictures to people. Okay, good good pictures and bad pictures, and they could measure the signals that go up, to the brain was sent, and they could actually scientifically prove that it really there is such a thing as, let's call it the soul or whatever, that really goes beyond our your brain. So it's very, very powerful, and so I appreciate you sharing this. So let's go back and just define really first and foremost what actually acting is. And I give you an example, and I kind of want you to tell me what you think, if I'm acting or not, and I want you to be actually, honest. So when I do the introduction, and you saw me, right? So would you say that this is acting, or would you say that this is somehow part of who he is? So be very honest.
I would say um it's a part of who you are, because if it's you, but you're doing in the mode of a presenter, And this is how Yannick presents. That is unique to your platform. It's unique to what you're doing. So it's definitely Yannick, but it's Yannick being a presenter, being a host for Why Knowledge Matters.
Brilliant.
It's
Just what you're saying is just really brilliant, and I will come back to. But just please keep going, and not because you're agreeing with me, but I have something to add. Just keep going.
Yeah, so this is you presenting. It's kind of like, let's say if you were given the task to speak to a baby, I don't think you would use that same sort of presenter like tone to present to a baby or to hold a baby. So I think what you're doing, it's taking cues to know what is appropriate for the theme of what you're doing. And for the theme, it's hosting. So this would fall in line with what you are presenting to us. It's you who's presenting it to us. If it would be an actor to give the credit, we'll give the credit to Yannick Mueller.
To everyone really who is listening right now. So therefore, I can really tell that you are a true pro in what you're doing. And you know what I really admire about you is you're not just an outstanding actor, but you're also a mother. You're also someone who keeps going to school. I mean, again, you enrolled in business administration, I think.
That's right.
You
That's
also
right.
started your
So,
own business, so all those kind of things. So I really love that. But let's just keep on track and just please define what really acting is. And so I loved what you were saying. So just keep going about what acting really is, and then yes, and what it really ought to be to you.
yeah, so acting is using your body as a vessel to be able to tell a story, a narrative. Yes.
I love that. I love that. And it's so powerful because partly why the United States of America is such a powerful force is because precisely that's what they are doing. And they do it in their very, very best. No one can do it as good as them because they know how to pursue and really convince people to buy their story. And I think, and you tell me what you think, but I truly believe that ultimately it always comes down to the story that you tell yourself. And therefore, acting in so many ways is really doing life in one way or another.
Yeah, so to be an actor or acting, it is using your body as a vessel to be able to tell a story, a narrative, and a portrayal.
Are you able easily to make a distinction between you acting and you authentically living?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part of your question.
You know, how do you differentiate you acting and you doing life?
Oh, well, I don't think that you can act out your life. That's one, because life is unpredictable. It's kind of like theater, where it's live, it's direct, it's moving, and it's in action. There's no some when you do something right now. Um, my dad would have a saying that you should try not to always correct your mistakes. So, meaning that you should try to do the thing the first time so that you don't end up correcting it. And in theater, it's live. There's no such thing as doing a retake. You can't do a retake in front of the audience. You can't go back. The show must continue, and it must be almost the professionals. It becomes very undetectable to the audience. Um, and so um, life gives you the experience that you need to be able to translate it to acting. So, for instance, Um, as of recent, I had a cousin who passed away tragically from cervical cancer. Um, let's just say I'm called to do a portrayal of that in the film. Because I know her so closely, I can be able to tap into her story to be able to share with an audience. Um, let's say, for instance, because I am a mother, I was fortunate enough to actually have played a role of a mother on a film that was on Oprah Winfrey Network as a mom with a daughter. So I know about children. That's one of my uh, things that I have in my artillery. Uh, and life, like as I said, will teach you about acting. It puts you directly in the situations that we see play out on films all the time. And as you continue to live your life, you will be if you are fortunate enough to live a very long life, you will be able to have all the experience that you could be able to lend to a film.
How
Yeah.
do you deal with the pressure? Because as you just said, that's actually very serious, and I want everyone really to dissect this, because you said you can't really make a mistake twice, right? If you go, or let's say you play a theater, you have to get it right. So how do you handle pressure? It's huge, because I have a very different approach, obviously, because I'm not an actor, right? But I always tell also my students that, you know what, here in this classroom, I want you to do it over and over again. Be fearless. Just do it. I do not care how many mistakes you make. You just do it over and over again. Even if I have to explain it to you 1,000 times, that's my job. I am happy. Okay. That's Michael Jordan as well. You know, for every shot that you don't take, you lose 100%. Okay. But you are
Hmm.
saying, hey, you can't really correct it. You got it, you gotta have to get it right in the first place. So how did you, and still do,
Oh,
deal
I
with the
know.
pressure?
It sounds quite tough and arduous, right? To say that. But it's great that you asked me to clarify. And what I mean by that is that preparation is always key. Sometimes um, the preparation for, let's say, to be afforded a role for acting, it's almost something that you could have never even predicted that you would have been chosen to do this. Um, but in regards to something like, let's say, like an exam for your students, what I would say is that the mistake that you would make is with self sabotage. Let's say if I am somebody who I know that I have to do this exam and I don't study, or I don't give myself enough time to prepare for the exam. Let's say the exam is starting at 6 p.m. and at 5:59, 45 seconds left. I am just scrambling now to get my notes. I know that that's going to put me in a state of unease. So, with acting and with life, I would say that you need to obtain the knowledge. And this is why knowledge matters to be able to prepare yourself for those opportunities that will come unexpectedly. But because you've done the work or the studying prior, you've lived that life, you've had that experience, you can lend it now to that thing that is going to come your way. Yes. So that's what I mean by don't correct your mistakes, because if you are sabotaging yourself, then that it's a mistake.
What you're also basically saying is acting is actually a great way of really also getting your life straight. So how does your acting and the progress you're making in acting translate to your ordinary life?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get the question.
How do you translate your career as an actress into your everyday life. Because to me, what I really hear is it's a great way of really preparing yourself also for life. Even
Yes. So I would say that whilst uh acting is something that it is I'm still very I would still consider myself I'm humble. I consider myself to be um starting out. I've started and I'm continuing. But um it is for me it is a career. It's a lifelong journey. So I don't necessarily focus on um I just go straight, with tunnel vision, and I just focus on the things that are immediate that require my immediate attention. Um I don't necessarily focus on what's I have it on it's on autopilot. It's always a part of me. Those skills and everything that I'm learning is a part of me. But it runs on autopilot.
how do you deal with rejections for a specific movie?
Yes. Oh, there's lots of those. Lots of rejections. Imagine I was looking at my email, and there was a particular casting company that I wrote them ever since 2022. That was after, I moved from the pandemic and I was, searching for work and such. And it wasn't up until 2025 that they actually considered me for work. So I've been sending in requests to them for a very long time, and I was essentially rejected. But how I always have the belief that whatever that the opportunity is for me, that it doesn't belong to anybody else, and that I am fortunate to have it and to have that experience. And when the opportunity came about for me to work with them, it ended up crossing off one of my bucket list of experiences for me to do. I was placed in a jail. I had never been to a jail before, and I had to be in a real life penitentiary, and that was like it was so surreal, like just seeing those bars and seeing the architecture of the building, the experience in there. It was cold. It's true what they say. It's cold, and that and working with the company was so amazing. I could not imagine that. It was so nice. I had a wonderful experience while I was on set working with them. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Rejection, it's a natural thing. You may not who knows, as I was saying before, maybe the time that I was throwing my application out there, I wasn't actually prepared to uh be in a penitentiary style environment. This role did not suit me at that time because maybe I did not have the experience, who knows. But it came about, and the thing is, whenever sometimes that happens, like for me, I would say honesty, sometimes the opportunities they roll together like one, two, and then three. They all come at a very rapid rate. So I don't even sometimes have time to think about the rejection or if I felt bad or what happened. But it's rampant. Um, you will send emails, no one responds. You feel like, oh, why are they overlooking me? Um, but you should always remain positive in negative situations and remain positive in good situations. Always maintain a strong decorum. Yes, always maintain a strong decorum, so that way you are not blindsided by anger when the good opportunities roll in.
It's really powerful, and it's really also about basically control, right? That you want to have your destiny in your hands, and the story, we come back to the story that you were actually telling yourself, right? That was really meaningful because it helped you to actually deal with the rejection. And no one likes rejection. I think it's the biggest fear of most people, actually being rejected, and no one likes it. But I'm curious, how did the story from your very early beginnings change up to now when it comes to rejections?
Oh, I would say like now I'm more like I said, I have more like tunnel vision. So like I can deal with the rejection more now. um and I I have a strong belief that anything that is meant for me is truly destined for me alone. So I try not to count the rejections. I try to continue to, like I said, be positive and think about what I could be doing instead of that uh, rejection. So like I said, I always try to maintain positive spirits. I have so many different things that I have going on. I'm telling you, the rejection could not keep me up at night.
Where does this positive outlook at life come from? What do you think?
I would say it comes from my beliefs. I also grew up very religious. I grew up as a Seventh day Adventist. And so, those who know, they follow the teachings of Ellen G. White. In terms of maybe other popularized religions, it's more closely linked with Judaism in terms of how we worship style. Um, and throughout that, I think I just have a strong and firm faith and belief in God. I believe that He is omnipresent, omnipotent, and He gave us this planet Earth for us to be able to have dominion in it. Everything that is for you, it's already written, and you just have to continue with a positive spirit, with a positive belief and faith that truly that this planet is destined for us. It's destined for us to be able to enhance. And I'm a strong believer too that um, God has blessed me with many talents. I have a talent for singing. I have a talent for acting. I can do modeling. I'm also academically, I perform well. I'm currently right now undergoing my master's in business administration. I may follow it up and achieve the doctorate. So I'm a mother. Um, so I am a strong believer that um, these achievements and things that I have been pursuing, it is destined for me. I just have to take it in stride. And as I said, I have acting and my artistic career. It is on autopilot. It is something that I activate when those opportunities presents to me. Actively, I do study, so I am not worried in the least. In fact, I am just in a preparation mode because I have a strong belief that in the film industry they call it your opener or your big gig. It's very soon for me, so I don't have any um reservations about life. I don't worry about what I'm going to eat today or tomorrow. I don't think about those things.
It's amazing, Abby, because I can really tell, and that's why I love it so much to really talking to you and engaging with you, whether it's on a personal level or really through this platform. You're truly an outstanding person, and I can really tell the light that you really have and that you let your light shine upon the world, to your kids and really the world. So that's really beautiful. Let's unpack a little bit what you mean by focus, because to me, it really seems what I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have a clear vision, you have a clear mission, and clear goals. So, unpack this, how you actually, if at all, elaborated your vision, your mission, and your goals in order for be where you are now.
Yeah. Um, I would say whenever you start something, it's always important that you must finish. So, um, whilst I'm not somebody that I think goals are things that you can set like a grocery list. You cross them off and it's on to the next week. I make another list and I achieve those things and then go on to the next week. Your goals are always ever evolving, ever changing, and they're for everything that I'm pursuing in life, there are a list of things that I must do in order to reach that next stage. Um, but it's not something that I would say people are not gonna like this, but don't place too much high importance on goals because once you achieve that goal, there will be another one, and after that one, there's another one too, and after that previous one, there's another one also. So just look at it as it's the weather forecast. It's going to change. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be cloudy. But you're always going to have, as long as you are alive, as long as you're functioning, you're always going to have tasks that you need to achieve. In terms of acting, I've had people ask me questions like, oh, are you going to go to Hollywood? Is that somewhere that you see yourself? And I responded and said, well, I never really, I don't imagine myself being there, but I do imagine myself continuing to do films. I imagine myself continuing uh, to be in a blockbuster film. I don't imagine myself to be in any particular space or time or even a place because I've found that what happens is that those things where I'm naturally meant for me to be, they're going to attract me and I'm going to be there. If I say consciously that I would like to be there, I will be there. So I don't really set a goal in mind to reach to a particular place. I was also speaking with a visual effects artist from the Los Angeles scene who had over 20 years of accreditation for films, etc. And, you know, he said to me that actually he was on his way, he was going to become a doctor, a medical doctor. And one day he was walking by his studio and something told him to go into the studio. He landed a gig as an actor. And then later on, he later developed his experience as a visual effects animator. So that is to say, you can never imagine yourself to be or say my goal is that I should be in Hollywood because when you set your targets you've actually kind of limited yourself because if you think about it there are so many industries film industries in this world that exists, not only Hollywood, you see. So I think I don't set the goals because it's actually it narrows you down. It actually puts you in a very tight circumference. Whereas your mind should be open to the world, you know,
That's a
open to the
very good
world
point.
and just continue to attract those things to come to you, not you forcing yourself to go there.
It's a very good point, and I want to actually unpack this a little bit because we are basically talking here about different things in terms of when it comes to setting goals. Because in your situation, you already found basically what you always wanted to do, right? That's being a successful actor, being a successful mother, having a great, a meaningful, and adventurous life, right? Because you are constantly taking up new challenges to just move forward, right? And for you, what you're basically saying is that the goal is the process. In other words, it's about the now, it's all about the journey. And you gotta focus on the journey, on your craft, and whatever will come or not. It is meant to be. So you completely trust it. But for someone, let's say, who, because a lot of people are, they're not as fortunate, for example, as you, where you in your early life, you kind of you felt like within your community that, hey, that's something I'm really passionate about. I had the same thing with when it comes to hockey, for example. I was constantly, for me, I never had any doubt that I can't make it. I always already imagined myself playing in front of thousands of people. There was no way. The same thing with living in an indigenous community. The same thing with living in North America. I constantly I lived this just in my imagination as a young boy, constantly. And of course, sometimes it's also hard because people don't really understand you, right? Because somehow you live in a different world, right? The way you see things, right? It's very different than from someone who might not have like big dreams or whatever. Now, what I just want to touch on is really your focus. And to me, what I can really tell is you were really early able to hold on something that you discovered, hey, that's actually me. That's actually something that gives me the challenge, the adventure, the excitement, and really the fulfillment and satisfaction to really embark on the path of happiness. And so now, if you have focus, okay, and we know this actually, if you have focus and you combine it with engagement, and this ultimately leads as a result to progress, right? It's like picking up a book. If you start reading it at least 30 minutes or an hour, you start gradually progress, right? And that truly makes you feel already better. Okay? Why? Because it's progress. Therefore, really progress to some extent equals happiness, right? Whatever you do, it's important that you engage, that you have focus, and that's why you're successful, right? But still, you were in this sense lucky or not. I think most of the time it's actually not luck, because luck too, there is a book called The Luck Factor, and it's a very comprehensive study actually who shows that luck is actually created. They could really pin it down to about 7 features that people really think that they are happy and what they are doing. And a couple of things is really what you're doing is always look at the challenge as an opportunity. Always look at life, or having like the glass half full rather than half empty, and all those kind of tricks that really ultimately allows you to see and to create these opportunities. Because as you say, right, if you look at the positive, what it does also neuroscientifically, it opens you up, right? Imagine you fall in love, right? What happens? Everything is amazing. It's just amazing. You walk up to strangers and you just say, ah, you know what, you're a great guy, look at this beautiful tree, whatever, just whatever, right? Well, it's your emotional state you're in, right? It affects ultimately your perception, right? And so that's what I really see in you. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify this, which is really powerful. So I truly believe that you have created, you really made yourself a successful person in the sense of really focusing on the process, on really living in the now, not the past, not the future, but really the now, because the now is really what ultimately creates the future, the destiny that you always are meant to live. So I just want to know what you think about this proposition, because I had a couple of those kind of discussions, and I also had someone was here and he said, "Yeah, I don't set any goals. Goals is for whatever." But it was precisely because he already was at the very, very top. He was at the very top. So obviously for him, goals, it was somehow, in not really natural, because he was already doing and living his purpose every single day. So therefore, but even though he might not be consciously aware that he actually sets goals, but he still to some extent does, even if it's just, let's say, your priority list. If you're a CEO, it's really important that you actually pay attention what are your priorities, right? And then you look at what you actually have to do, right? And so that really helps you to make sure that you remain on the
Mhm.
path.
I would say to what you said earlier about luck, and I'll share something with you that's a cultural thing. So for us culturally, we say that if you have a child and the daughter looks like the dad, that means then she's going to be lucky in life. If the boy looks like the mom, then that means then they're going to be lucky in life. I don't know what other correlation has to do with it, but that was something that they shared with us as children to say to us about luck.
So
I also
just to
believe,
clarify,
yeah,
but it was basically, it meant that no matter how you look like, you will be lucky, right? Because if you
yeah,
look like the mother, you will be lucky. If you look like the father, you will be lucky. So no matter what, you will be lucky, right? So just to make sure I got this correctly.
yes, no matter what, you will be lucky. But it's specific to the gender. So the girl looks like the dad, and then the boy looks like the mom. I don't know, like a man with a little bit
Yin
of
and yang,
feminine
right?
features,
Yeah.
and a woman with a little bit of masculine features.
Makes sense,
um,
right? It's about like the two, two
the
forces,
yin and
yin and
the yang.
yang. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And there's another theory about luck that says that right place, right time. Yes. So I strongly believe in that one also because right place, right time, meaning that, or sometimes it correlates to meeting the right people. Meeting the right people in the right place at the right time can land you the opportunities of a lifetime. So that's part of the luck quotient that also too is not really spoken about much in terms of maybe even careers or that aspect because everybody wants the merit that, oh, I worked so hard for me to get here. But sometimes it's through referrals, it's through luck and chance that you may meet this person and then this person will be able to put you a part of their production or etc.
You know
Um,
what? This is a very interesting point. I can tell you about, and that's also actually studies show that the more work you put into something, the more ultimately you're able to start also using your intuition. And that's precisely what leads you to being at the right time at the right place. And that's, for example, what happened to Einstein, for example. He was all the time pondering about his, you know, future theory of relativity, for example, constantly. Okay. Nothing happened for years. He was working in a patent office in Bern. But all of a sudden, and that's also interesting what I mentioned before with in terms of the field, because usually there are more than just one person who actually comes up with an idea. Why? Because energy, we create constantly energy. Everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy. And somehow, therefore, there is a field. And if you're able somehow to get to this field and probably get some information, you come, it's very interesting. This is quantum physics. I'm not understanding quantum physics, but all is to say that I truly believe, and that's also has the luck factor, has it really demonstrated that yes, of course, but there is always, you can always advance it by really working hard and putting you out there, right? for example, yourself, right? You do a lot of costing and stuff, and sometimes you get it, sometimes not, but you got it, and you got it to the play, you got to the place where you are now because precisely you put in the work. You got back up again and again and again. And a lot of people, what happens is they, at some point, they give up. And you see this also in sports stars. Most of the best players, they're always players who are have so much more talent. I saw this when I was playing. You know, the greatest talent, for example, in my age, they all didn't make it to the professional league, and they were it was just an absolutely joy. But one of the challenges is always there. It's a hard work, but you also ultimately you have to be able to bring your intuition, your heart, and your brain together in perfect alignment. And that's really what mental strength is, right? And that makes really the difference between an average player and really the very, very top in terms
Yeah.
of the really the most successful. And there's actually also a study, I think it was done by Stanford or University of Massachusetts. They found this precisely that if you, for example, work in a field where you need both, as you, for example, as well with acting, you need your cognition, right? But also your intuition, right? And it's really hard actually to really perfectly align them because oftentimes what happens is our cognition, our reason really interferes with our heart, right? And therefore we can't really, succeed.
Yes, because sometimes too, part of the brain is designed to keep us very safe. You wouldn't ordinarily, let's say, go and dip your hand in your tea because you know it's going to burn you. But let's say, for instance, with there's also to like a risk factor too. Yeah, there's also like a risk factor as well. So it, like you said, it's combining that energy and along the steps following it will now open up those paths for you because you've kind of, like you said, done the work in the background. You've been preparing yourself for this moment subconsciously for a very long time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why you are so successful. And that's why it's such a gift talking to you. Abena Mansa, really, it's such a gift. And we are running actually out of time. And hopefully, I can get you back for a second episode, actually, for part two, because it's just, I still have so many questions actually left open that I would love to really continue to engage with you because I think it's really helpful. What gives you true meaning and purpose in your life?
Oh, I think in just knowing that it's a long journey. Um, Also just knowing that if I am not happy, then I can't provide that happiness for anybody else around me. Um, I'm responsible for my own life. I'm responsible for doing the things that make me happy and that align with me. And I continue to push myself in the direction of things that are going to artistic endeavors. I find that that's a part of life where I find the most joy. Um, my analytical side is more so for my studies, my the academia career, but the arts allows me to be free to uh to be expressive, and I may not always sometimes have the verbiage to be able to articulate what I'm feeling or um but for sure with your body, with a portrayal, you can be able to express yourself in a manner that is guilt free. You can only judge maybe my performance if you so choose to, but you can't judge how I feel, how it made me feel inside. That is my own thing that I own. So
It's beautiful. What you're basically also saying, really, that living and being an actress, it's also to some extent a science and an art at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that.
Would you agree that being an actress and really doing life, being a human being, is a science, but also at the same time an art?
Yes, it is unpolished. It's unpolished in the sense that it's like, a pearl that is formulating in a clam for uh 10 years, and the scuba divers, they just discovered it, and it's a wonder. And it is also something that we said, like a preparation. um, there is a science to it. There are several techniques that you will use for acting. I'm not a teacher, but one of them, of course, is lived experience. Have you done this before? We want to see if you have the experience to do it. The other is you will learn on the job. There's specific scientific names for them. I'm failing at this. But yes, there are four different techniques that explain the scientific aspect of it. Because I'm African too, I would say that there's a spiritualism aspect to it. Uh, we'll talk about dive into that one on another topic, because that one could go very long. But yes, there is a spiritual side to acting, to embodying. Let's say if you're singing a song from somebody who is now deceased, or just being able to harness that energy that maybe they gave towards that song, it requires a special kind of thought, concentration, thought technique you have to incorporate into there. um, but yeah, there's so many aspects to it. It's not just only there's scientific, there's the spiritual aspect, there's the lived experience aspect, and the luck factor.
Yeah, of course. And we can just go on talking about luck. I think it's so interesting and it's wonderful. And actually, I didn't want to go into the science in terms of, because I feel like I put you on the spot, but I didn't mean really go into the science of acting, in this sense, but in the sense of really living, right? Because we have proof for certain things scientifically that they actually work in order for us to improve our life. And at the same times, it's also an art, because we have to combine them in a creative way in order for us to make it work, because every individual is different, right, from each other. So
That's
therefore,
right.
it's also an art and expression, and how you just somehow mix it together and just uh, ensure that it comes into fruition. What if someone really wants to become an actor? Because who doesn't want to become an actor, right? Even myself, actually, in the past, I was watching all the time when I was, let's say, between 15 to into my 20s, kind of these soap operas and stuff. And I really found it compelling, because they did such a great job, and really they embodied really what they were playing. At least to me, that really seemed true. So I was always intrigued. But now let's suppose someone wants to become an actor. And what are the three most important questions that you think they should ask themselves in order to really seriously start contemplating of becoming an actor? Because there's also a reality. It's really, really, really tough.
Yes. The reality is that it is very tough to be amongst maybe the top 1% in terms of, let's say, the people, in terms of earners. Because, of course, when you are going to pursue a career, everybody asks you, I would ask them, one, what is your motivation for wanting to become an actor?
Oh, it's fame! It's fame! It's fame!
Is
Isn't
it
it great?
okay? Yeah, you'd like to be famous, but you'd like to be famous for what? For what reason? Secondly, what are you good at playing? Because there's a saying in acting that you could be typecasted, meaning that you could be given a role that you always constantly book this role because um uh you've aced it. This is the look of this is your look.
Jim
Like for
Carrey,
instance,
Jim Carrey, isn't it? Jim Carrey is a
I
case.
believe so. Jim Carrey, he often plays very comical sorts of roles. So let's say, for instance, maybe placing him in something that is a drama with a wife that's dying or something. It might not be his forte. I don't know. Um, but I would ask them three, and what work are you doing to be able to get to, if you have a vision for yourself in your mind where you'd like to be or see yourself, um, what are you doing towards getting there? And if their motivation is fame, okay, fame equals fame. It's not bad to want fame. I think that I'm gonna say it. It's not bad to want to be famous because we know that it affords people the opportunities that are not afforded to the average person. Fame is almost like a currency that is an invisible exchange uh, to people whenever you go places. Um, you know, I could attest to this that it does offer you some free things that the other person will have to pay for, you know? It does
And
come with a privilege, but it also comes with there's also a consequence of it as well, you know. If you're doing it, let's say for because you're motivated by money, um, I would say maybe choose something else. Because a lot of the artists that we know who rose to prominence, um, there is this like debate about, let's say, art, like physical art. Should we license it while we are living to make bigger wages? Or should we license it maybe after the person has died in order to honor their legacy? So what is your motivation behind the money aspect? Are you somebody that you're free to license? Like, like I would ask them. Um,
it's a very good point, actually. And as you're mentioning, is that it also it shows if you become very famous, it also means that you really worked by and large very very hard, right? I mean, usually, unfortunately, today in today's world, you cannot even become famous with just doing nonsense. Basically, there's also potential there, but usually it really shows that someone worked very 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 hard, and as you mentioned,
that's
right?
right. They beat the odds. They've past the statistics in order to become that top percent or top 10%. It's a very big feat because there are thousands and thousands of actors and actresses who um but it also like I said, it just depends upon the person's goal. Some people, they just they would like to they like myself at the moment. I don't set any outlandish goals for myself that I should make $1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. I don't set those goals. I don't, and also too, oftentimes when I work with people, I don't work on a principle of exchange for money. There are some people that they are very strict on those things, and I strongly believe that it's more important to me to have a body of work that can solidly represent you when you go out, to make you um, people will resonate with it with an emotion that they feel that you've evoked in them, rather than uh, you know yes, money is great too, but I I more strongly believe in that, and that was what I've experienced personally. People when they've seen me in films, they say like, "Oh wow, I love the way that you did this," or I didn't know that you played this character. Like I played a detective. Like, wow, you know how to hold a gun. so so I get those things from people, and people recognize me from places, and they just wished me the best, you know? That's
It really
priceless.
comes down. I think that's why you are so successful. You are such a great person. Really, I can testify this because ultimately it comes down to really the really human identity needs that we are seeking for, right? And we have to ask ourselves if 1 million or 2 million or $3 million in our bank account, if it will actually change a lot in our life. And if it would, then I think we should really question ourselves how we actually live our lives, because ultimately it comes down to our sense of security, our sense of belonging, how we relate to people, the meaning we get out of this relationship, the recognition that we give ourselves, right, first and foremost, and then also to others, right, basic human rights, and then really also just this capacity of taking action, being creative, and doing something meaningful that ultimately goes beyond just yourself, but really extrapolates into community and really to the world. And to
Yeah.
me, I really want to ask you, what success to you does truly look like?
Wow. um, well, I mean, as per your words, I'll quote you. You've said already that I'm very successful. So I would think that it would equate to the very same feeling that I have right now, where I don't worry about um, what I'm going to have to eat tomorrow. I don't have to worry about the basics. It all boils down to the basics, honestly, like the basics that we need as humans, like with Maslow's theory of whatever it's called. Just the basic things. You have food, you have water, shelter, your family who loves you, friends who support you on your endeavors. That's it.
And
And
self actualization that you really are doing, right? Because this is really the peak of Maslow's pyramid, right?
yeah. So if I had like you when you talked about the persons who they're doing it for money, there's a not a theory necessarily, but like a saying that a lot of the people who won the lottery, right, they would end up getting all of those millions of dollars, and then like poof, it evaporates after like 2 years. Some people say it's because one, maybe they never really worked to that point to amass those amount of funds. So due to mismanagement, they'll end up losing it very fast. Um, but I think that there's a strong belief that you should tender and focus on the things that you have now. You could have an opportunity, yes, that will change your life. But with $3 million, I don't think I would be living a different lifestyle than what I'm living now. For sure, I would purchase maybe my dream home, but it would probably be in the same community that I'm in already now, because I would not imagine myself living somewhere maybe I don't like, or you know I wouldn't put myself at too much discomfort or dis-ease. um yeah, it would be the same. I would just continue on to the same, and it doesn't mean that my work will stop. It means that if now even um, that money can be used for marketing or something to enhance those things that I'm already doing. I would love to be able to donate not only my time, but maybe like I have that money to benevolent causes, foundations. That's something that I think about in my future. Yeah.
Beautiful. But I think it also comes down again to preparation. Let's say you all of a sudden, or someone gets a job as a professional soccer player, and you never really trained as a soccer player, right? Of course you will screw up. And it's the same thing when it comes to money, right? When someone wins the lottery, there's just certain things that come at you that you first and foremost you have to be prepared to actually be able to handle it. It's like instant fame. Who can handle fame? No one really. I mean, look at Elon Musk, for example. He's the most famous, most brilliant mind of our time. I mean, he's Einstein and Edison really combined. When you look what he has done, I mean, it's unimaginable what he has done. Like reusable rockets. I mean, it's just crazy. As
Yeah.
someone who really loves business, and I think business is really like the driving force of what we are doing because it's all about relationships, it's all about creating values. So no one, not even himself, can handle the amount of fame that he has, right? And I don't blame him at all because no normal person really can. So therefore, I will never judge him based on his worst moments, right? Why should
Yeah.
I? I mean, it's just unfair, right? And so it really comes down to, as you said, when it comes to winning the lottery, right? You can't be prepared. It's just really hard, and therefore people lose it again. And of course, it also has to do with education, but, and I think most importantly, is really the lack of purpose and meaning and focus. Again, you are where you are because you had always focus, right? You had something in you, whether it was God given or whether it was really your parents who did such an outstanding job that helped you to be able to somehow be successful in this complex world, because it's not easy, because there is also this illusion of choice, right? We all think that we have all this illusion. It's like when you are on one of these dating apps, you feel so powerful because you can just flip, and it's like, you're in control. It's the same thing like, when you drive a car, you feel really good, really safe, but when you actually fly with a big jet, you are really uneasy, at least most people. Why? Because they're not in control anymore, right? Even though we know conceptually that, hey, it's much safer than actually driving a car. So what do you think about this proposition?
Oh, I would say that we're just one needle in a haystack, you know? Whilst, but what you're saying about, like, let's say, with dating, for that reference, I guess, like you're saying, it's kind of like an illusion of how many options. Because I was watching something that stated that actually you just need to go through your phone and select the people that you already know. Because actually, those are the people who have the most humane, have had made contact with you, the most humane connections, rather than seeking an alien on the app that you've never made contact with. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's that would make more sense um with that. Yeah.
And you know what? It's actually the same challenge as if you want to find your life partner in your little village of 400 people or in the world, because yes, there are fewer people, but you also have fewer competitors, right? So now, when you're just out there in the world, you think you have all these choices, but you actually don't have more choices than if you were still living as we did 30 years ago, where you had actually go in a bar and you were very nervous to actually talk to someone, and therefore you drank a little bit of alcohol, and so it eased you a little bit down, and then so it's very interesting. But this is a whole other conversation, and I really love talking to you, and I just can continue, but given the time, we are coming to the end. So last question, Avi, what makes you truly feel alive?
Oh, I would say as of recent, it is exploring. Um, Last summer, I was my parents, they gifted me with a vacation to reunify with more family. I I went to 3 countries in 30 days. I did Morocco, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire, and I got to experience different environments, different people, different lifestyle, and I would say when I one of the particular things that I did, I'm scared for myself, my feet to leave the ground, but I climbed on a canopy that was thousands of meters in the air. And I do realize that actually, compared to a lot of people, maybe I'm a little bit of a daredevil. And um, because of that, I would say what makes you feel alive is more travels, exploring the world, watching more horror films. I feel like that. For me, I need like that jolt of like electricity. I love to feel like excited. There's very few things I feel like that can excite me so much to like make me like jump out and be scared or so I think there's more things that really just make those electrons go off, like, that thrill. Yeah, I'm a bit of a thrill seeker.
I think that's beautiful because I think that's also really the story, right? Of, any religion, really. It's always ultimately the adventure, the exploration of what is really beyond our reality. In other words, the question is, what is this reality built on? There must be probably a reality upon which this reality is built on, and that might be God, that might be whatever. So beautiful. And obviously it also connects really from where you have been living in New York City, which is really the center of the world, right? There's no really more exciting place than New York City. And you also have to be able to actually handle those kind of energy because it's really, really fast. It's fascinating, but
Mhm.
it's fast, right? And yeah, thank you so much, Abena Mansa, really for being on the show and to be truly a gift for myself and really the world.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we had such a great discussion today. I can't wait for us to reconvene so that we will be able to dive into some more deeper topics. I can be able to share with you a different aspect of some things that I'm currently working on. I'm actually currently designing a collection of jewelries. So this is one of the examples of the jewelries that I have designed. So there's more to come. Stay with me to follow my journey.
We will do this. Abena Mansa, really, thank you so much for being on the show, and I can't wait for the upcoming podcast with you again to really catch up and to discuss further your venture and your adventures. Abena Mansa. That's why knowledge matters. Make your life a masterpiece. Visit now programs.d-ykm.com. Mentor.